Eric?
Arthel, it's a Saturday afternoon. A mall with sushi and espresso, frozen yogurt, just like any mall in America. So what do we do when these so-called soft targets are attacked by Islamist terrorists? John Bolton, the former ambassador to the United Nations, senior fellow at the American Enterprise Institute, and a Fox News contributor, joins us now. Good morning. Sadly, Ambassador, on this morning as the death count continues to rise, how do we stop the Islamist terrorists like Shahab from killing us?
Well, you know, what's significant about this attack is not only that it's still ongoing, almost 24 hours into it, but that al-Shabaab is a Mogadishu, Somalia-based terrorist group. And yet it has found the wherewithal to attack not in Somalia, but in the capital of Kenya. It's an al-Qaeda affiliate. This was obviously well planned. And I think one key question for the Kenyan authorities is, did the terrorists mount this attack entirely based on supply lines back to Somalia? Or were they aided by Kenyans who were sympathetic to their cause? I think that is potentially quite significant. But I think it shows that across the seam in Africa, between Saharan Africa and Sub-Saharan Africa, as we saw in Mali, in Algeria, in Libya, in the Sudan, this conflict, these terrorist attacks, represent a growing threat to stability for the regimes all across Africa, and that has to concern us greatly.
How does that affect us?
Well, look, we've got enormous commercial interest in transiting the Red Sea, in shipping through the Indian Ocean, in commerce in the Mediterranean, and in the stability of governments in Africa that have substantial Muslim populations. If government deteriorates, and the governments there are not strong to begin with, let's be clear, but if you have more areas of essential anarchy, like we have had in Somalia for going on 2 decades now, as appears to be developing in Libya, in Yemen, and elsewhere, you could see potential for terrorist organizations to take root across a huge geographic area, not confined to a country like Afghanistan, but you could see the breakdown of government and authority across the entire North African part of that continent. That would be a huge victory for the terrorists, a great risk for Europe in the first instance, great risk for America as well.
That is a frightening prediction, that this could metastasize and have many more Afghanistans. Meanwhile, you have the issue of Iran and Tehran supporting terrorist groups, and President Hassan Rouhani coming to New York today for the United Nations. Will all these issues be a part of that as we focus on the nuclear program?
Well, I think this has to be at the center. Look, Iran, in addition to the threat posed by its nuclear weapons program and its current charm offensive, which too many Americans up to and including the White House seem to be buying, Iran has long been the world's central banker of international terrorism on an equal opportunity basis. Sunni, Shia, it doesn't matter to them. They arm and finance terrorists of all kinds of Islamic stripes. So I think this is a potentially quite significant gathering in New York where people ought to be talking about the terrorist threat, not succumbing to blandishments of a very effective propaganda machine in Tehran.
And there's talk of a possible meeting, maybe an informal meeting between Mr. Rouhani and the President of the United States, President Obama. I mean, well, you're in the hallways. These world leaders walk right past you. Is that orchestrated? Is that possible? What do you expect?
Sure. Look, Eric, as you know from your days covering the UN, if they want to have a meeting between Obama and Rouhani, even just a symbolic handshake for the cameras, it's very easy to arrange. At the Secretary General's lunch on Tuesday for heads of state, in the hallways, as you say, wherever there's a clutch of cameramen, I'm sure if they want that handshake to occur, they can make it happen. The real question is why the President of the United States should shake hands with a top official, not the top official, a top official of a government that even to this day the Obama administration lists as a state sponsor of terrorism. Now, if you take state sponsors as being effectively terrorists themselves, why should the president shake hands with a terrorist?
Well, that's an excellent point. And why should the president believe what he says? I mean, it's the same tune for all these years. Mahmoud Ahmadinejad said the same thing. Look at this interview from 2 years ago. Get your reaction. Do you want to pursue a nuclear bomb?
Is there a law that tells me that I must swear to convince others? I have said on numerous occasions that we do not want an atomic bomb.
Why should we believe you? You are violating 4 UN resolutions. You've kicked out UN inspectors. Why should the world believe anything that you say on this subject?
We do not insist that you should believe us. We've never said that you should. You are free not to believe us.
Well, now it's 6 resolutions. They've just installed 1,000 more centrifuges.
Yeah, well, that was an excellent confrontation with Ahmadinejad, who, let's face it, was the ugly face of the Islamic Revolution. Hassan Rouhani comes as the smiling face of the Islamic Revolution. But there is no evidence whatever that he or the Ayatollah Khamenei or any of the top leadership in Iran have shifted in the slightest from their 20-year-long goal of achieving deliverable nuclear weapons. Do they want relief from economic sanctions? Sure. Are they willing to make a few cosmetic concessions to get that? Yes. Will they do anything that really compromises their nuclear weapons program? Absolutely not. Rouhani is bringing with him the P.T. Barnum doctrine, and that is there's a sucker born every minute, and he's hoping there's one in the White House right now.
New face, no shift, says Ambassador John Bolton. Ambassador, thanks so much as always.
Thank you, Eric.